Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the always online multiplayer gaming podcast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman, and it's Thursday. I know. We're normally doing the show Friday, twitch.tv/MMOBomb at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can always hang out with us, chat, standing by to chime in as we go. But today we're doing it Thursday, posting it on Thursday instead of Friday. I got some long driving to do tomorrow, so I can work via the phone and the laptop and rest stops, but I can't do a podcast. So we're doing the show today. We got a lot to talk about. Joining me to do it, of course, Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Well, I thought there was going to be a cat rumble behind me, but apparently they decided it's nap time, so at least for now, there won't be any fur flying.
Well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully. You got 1 hour, cats. Keep it calm. 1 hour. Also on the line, Mr. Troy Blackburn, the Noob Fridge. What's up, boss?
I can try to provide a cat rumble if we need to. If that's what we gotta do for views, cat rumble it is.
Incoming.
If you hear me yelling, hey, 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 that's the cat.
My two cats don't like each other very much, so.
Oh, nice. Or not nice.
I don't.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Spotify, any of those platforms, thanks so much. Give us a like, subscribe, turn the thumbs up, notifications, turn them on, comment, all that good stuff. And if you like what we do here, obviously visit mmobomb.com for all the gaming coverage, not just this podcast, including giveaways and interviews. And yeah, just come hang out with us. Very much appreciated. Question of the week and weekly bombs, big part of the show. Only part of the show if you put them in the comments. So with that said, let's get started with some news. All right, so we do have news to cover, but I'm going to get to that in just a little bit because it's a lot of like little bite-sized news bits. You know, some things coming up, some changes that people are making. What the hell are you doing, Final Fantasy 14? You know, that kind of stuff. But so first, last week I asked the question, like, what MMO gaming companies do you just not like, right? Like, it doesn't matter how cool a game looks. If it's got that company on it, you're just staying away from it. And I only got like 1 or 2 answers. We gave ours. So apparently you love all MMO game companies, and that's okay. So I wanted to start today's discussion with a little ethereal type topic here, Troy. I want to know what MMOs are out there that you think, hey, that, you know what? That should be brought back from the dead. Like if it's totally dead. If it's just on life support, you know, maybe given over to a new company. It's still alive, but it's technically dead, right? What MMOs out there would you like to see come back, either as they were, or maybe in a revamped mode, or are out there that you'd like to see get some love?
Well, I've got 3 that came to mind whenever I saw this question in the show notes. So the first one would be WildStar. I think that WildStar, minus all the hardcore, you know, grinding to unlock the ability to do the in-game stuff, I think the version that shut down would probably do gangbusters right now. I think
Wasn't
the version
that like one of the big draws for it though? Like we always heard Jeremy walking around like hardcore.
Yeah, and you see how the hardcore worked out for them. They lost their player base and were unable to sustain the game. And even after they made adjustments to that kind of stuff, we talk about it all the time. You know, second chance to make a first impression. You don't get it very often, and players had already made up their minds what this game was going to be, how it was going to operate, and that they were or were not interested in it.
Right.
So I think that a WildStar relaunch right now, minus that stuff, would do really good. I think that the market is really itching for a new one right now. We've got several in development that aren't necessarily coming out at the moment, that we're still probably years away from as far as like some of the bigger names. So I think something like WildStar would do really good right now. As far as this,
what do you think, Q? WildStar. I mean, that's one that always kind of comes up in this discussion, I think, particularly because of like the way it just went away. There is a project You know, whether or not that gets to a very, very playable state, there's issues with it, of course, because it's not really a licensed thing. And unlike things like City of Heroes, the source code wasn't open to the public, so it's a little sketchy. But it is one that we constantly see in this discussion. But it also failed once. Like, it wasn't like the game's monetization was gross, turned a bunch of people off, and then the game went away. It got to try to do what it did. Is there a market for it?
I mean, there's people saying there's market for it. I don't even actually remember if I played WildStar or not. I might have, like, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours or something, but probably not actually, because it was buy to play, wasn't it? So
Initially, yes.
originally, yeah.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't even bother with WildStar. But I mean, this is the thing about bringing games back, right? Bringing back a game under new people or whatever. There's always somebody, and it will always come up in a discussion of, I really would like to have this game back. And either one, it just isn't really as many people as you think it is because it's the same people saying it all the time, or they don't really want it back. They just think they do. And when they get it back, they ignore it and it's going to die anyway.
So I just have to say, I want WildStar back. I am. That's me. Q, you just described me on any of these conversations. I'm like, yeah, I want WildStar back. And you know what? I was okay with WildStar in its more, Troy, it's more hardcore, aka grind fashion. I was okay with that. I understand why a lot of people wouldn't be. I would have preferred, if you want to keep the grind and the attunements and stuff like that, that's cool, fine. I'm okay with that. You're going to limit your audience, but I'm okay with it. The fact that I think the rating was the thing for me, right? That it was still built around that whole 25 to 40 person mentality. And I think that's just out these days. Like, that's just out. There are a couple WoW guilds that can do it here and there. Yeah, of course. And thing, but that's just out as far as mass appeal. You got to stick to 4, 5, 8, 10. Like that's the ideal thing for me these days. So if WildStar made that change and still wanted to do the attunements, I think I'd be okay. I'd be super on board if they took out all of the different long, grindy attunements. I don't mind having to earn my way somewhere, but getting too exalted with somebody, over using dailies, no, those days are gone. WildStar coming up in chat already with Chirac. We'll get to some of the ones you're mentioning in chat, by the way. Keep mentioning them there. I'll come circle back to that. All right, that's number 1 for you, Troy, WildStar. I will go with you on that one. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is one that is in maintenance mode that I would like to see go to somebody different.
It's Rift.
This is it's Rift.
It's Rift.
I would love to see that game go to an actual developer who wants to do something with it. I'm not saying you have to produce like a big AAA expansion right off the bat, because that's not feasible at the moment, given the player base and the money that it's making. But I would love to see them slowly start trickling in some content to it and try to build it back up to something that it once was. It's got the systems, man. It's got awesome systems in the game already. Unfortunately, they've been played to death at this point.
Dungeon running ever in an MMO.
There. Yes, got some great dungeons. What's it called? The Intrepid system, where you go out and just do Intrepid adventures. And things like that. That's a fantastic way if you're sick of just leveling through the story content of the world. That's a fantastic way to go out and get XP and just automatically be grouped up with people if you want to. That you don't have to necessarily, find a group. You're automatically put in a group and you're all just kind of doing the same objectives. That's a fantastic system. It shows its age a little bit nowadays, I do have to admit. But then I play something like Lord of the Rings Online, and I don't mind that it shows its age so much in Lord of the Rings Online, because the gameplay is fun. The systems that are in place are fun, and I think that it could get over that a little bit, because I think it still looks better overall than something as dated as Lord of the Rings Online. So I think it's not as old looking and system wise as some of the games that are still out there functioning and having a player base and having an audience. And I think something like Rift could definitely generate a bigger audience if there was just something to bring the game back to life.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones, right? Where like we always talk about World of Warcraft and obviously games like WildStar, if it was still around, you know, if they adopt a more cartoony aspect, then it has a little more longevity to the game because it doesn't show its age as fast as going for a realistic look a la, you know, a Final Fantasy 14 or something like that. Rift is one of those ones that I think they straddled that line really, really well. Like, obviously, it's not top tier graphical performance these days, but you don't look at it and see an EverQuest or an EverQuest 2. Like it's in that like little league right in the middle where you're like, yeah, this is a little bit dated, but still looks pretty damn good. And they didn't go for like ultra pure realism. Q, I know from our past experience together, we are still married in Rift, you and I, from an old Game Breaker stream.
Yeah.
That you would probably be pretty happy to see Rift get a little bit of love.
I mean, yeah, for the people that are still playing it, obviously the reason I quit playing it is because everybody else that I knew that was playing it pretty much quit playing it. So I just kind of fell out and found other things to do.
Right.
So I mean, I did really enjoy Rift. I don't know necessarily that I would go back to it because again, everybody that I knew that played is no longer playing it. And like, do I really feel like going back and making new friends in another MMO when I'm in this MMO?
Right.
Like that kind of
Go ahead.
it's just that kind of thing. Like, but yeah, I mean, for it would be nice if they, you know, treated it right and it got some love. It's a little disappointing that they went from actually being like one of the best free to play conversions to, you know, it's just kind of this thing that's sitting there now.
Yeah.
And
Gamigo gets a lot of flack for that, right? We've said on this show before, it's where games often go to die. A very slow and painful death. But if you're looking objectively at Rift, it was
already,
hurting.
I guess,
Yeah, it was already hurting before that. Tryon Worlds made some really bad decisions. You referenced the free-to-play conversion, which was what, around the Storm Legion time, I think?
I think so. And like I said, it was good. It was really
fantastic.
good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was one of the best. Like at that time, we had seen in that era, we saw Terra, right, go from buy to play to free to play. We saw Star Wars: The Old Republic, not necessarily in this order, but around that same time scope. Star Wars: The Old Republic did it, you know, and Star Wars: The Old Republic was the worst free-to-play conversion I had ever seen when they were like, yeah, buy hot bars. And we were like, no, we're not.
We don't even want to buy inventory slots.
Right.
Come on.
And then you had Rift where it was like, this is free, this is free, this is free, this is free. Here's our cash shop. Yes, there is equipment in the cash shop. It is always one tier off of the best in slot, so you cannot get the best of the best in there. Then fast forward years later, the thing that would have to change for me to even consider, Troy, jumping back into Rift to any meaningful degree is the currencies. Like, there are so many currencies in Rift now. Like, for this event and this event and this event and this cash shop currency and this intermediate currency between the cash shop and the in-game plat. And there was so many currencies that it just got, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. I definitely don't want to see it die, but I would not play it in its current iteration. It would have to get some love, not just on the new content front, but some adjustments to existing processes and systems, I think. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a game that lacked good leadership when it was being developed. Never had it had several clear directions, I guess, but nobody ever made up their mind what they wanted the game to be, and that's Firefall. And
that's another one that Chirac threw in chat. Firefall.
Yeah.
So which version of Firefall do you want?
I enjoyed the second version where it was an open world sandbox game, of course. It was more open worldy sandbox. There was PvP. It was a little mix of both. It was the first version where it was just a PvP lobby. wasn't so much for me. But the second version, where there was a sandbox world to go out and collect resources, and you could craft everything that you needed, and there was a process to going out and gathering and doing the crafting and all that. That was fantastic. It was the best version of the game. Then they started trying to make it a PVE theme park, and it really started going off the rails. So if somebody would just make up their mind what they want the game to be and go out there and recreate Firefall, that would be fantastic, because I loved the second iteration of that game.
Can't go with you on Firefall. In none of the modes. I think the very first version of it, that we got into that so early on MMOBomb. We had like different previews with the team, and Mark Kern and whatever. There's a name. Yeah, I don't know. I never felt that any of the versions had the focus that made me think, okay, this would be fun. Like, all of them just never got there, so I don't have the love for Firefall. I like the aesthetic. I liked some of the character and abilities and gear and stuff that they had going on there, but it just never came together for me. I don't know if I go with you on that one, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf would say.
Yeah, and like I said, the leadership was never in place for a clear direction on that game. There was, even when the game was still being developed, you would hear rumblings of, leadership would come in, and one day it would be one way, and the next
Right.
day it would be the completely opposite way, and it just didn't do the game any favors, obviously.
Q, I'm assuming no love for Firefall. It really doesn't feel like your type of game.
No. It was entertaining to write about.
Oh yeah.
While it was going on, but
remember that
no.
stupid boss?
Well, remember we had this discussion when I was writing up the
Oh yeah, the
day before stuff, because I was reading the day before stuff, and I was like, this all sounds very familiar. We did this before. This exact thing all happened before. Yeah, except the bus.
Except the bus.
Didn't have a big red bus.
They didn't have the big Firefall armor plating bus. What an extravagant advertising tool.
And the big expensive studio they built too. They built a big expensive,
Very
expensive
that's
studio.
right. Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
I forgot about the studio.
Yeah, the bus had all like high-end PC equipment in it too, right? Because it was like a demo thing. You could get on the bus and demo the game.
Well, they took it to what? GDC or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, now you can go out and get on our bus and play the game instead of doing it inside the building where everybody else is playing games.
Yeah, it's kind of like a kidnapping vehicle for adults, right? They're like, go ahead and there's free games in the bus, guys.
Go shoot each other.
Go ahead and get in. Yeah, the wannabe gaming TV channel. Yeah, Mark Kern was kind of all over the place back in the day when it came to Wild.
The funny thing about that is, though, right? Hi-Rez made a gaming TV channel, and it's now a completely separate company.
Yeah.
So it can work.
What do you got, Q? Some MMOs you want to see either come back from the dead or get a second lease on life if they're kind of a heartbeat away from being dead?
I know the answer to this. You know the answer to this.
I'm pretty sure I know your answer to
Everybody knows the answer to this. There's only one game. And I would actually leave Final Fantasy XIV for it, but under really, specific circumstances. And that's that they give the game back to Ragnar and Joel.
Yep, I'm right.
And let them finish their story. But it would be Legends, or the Secret World, whichever version of Secret World.
Oh, see, for me, it would have to be the Secret World. I don't like Secret World Legends.
Well, see, I did prefer, and I mean,
content-wise, there's no real difference. But the combat is a huge
mechanics,
difference.
Right? And I did really like the mechanics, the big wheel, everything of the Secret World. I really dug that, but for a lot of people, it wasn't terribly popular, and it's not a big loss to me. I want the story. I want to finish the story. Yeah. Like, I want to get out of South Africa or Egypt or wherever we were at the last time, and just go to other places.
Let's do a little head on over to the Steam charts page. See exactly how that one's doing these days. Oh, 59 3 minutes ago. 24-hour peak 61.
Yeah,
Mm,
it'll just quietly close the door one of
yeah,
these days.
that's
Nobody'll
sad.
hear a peep.
That's sad.
They
That
don't
was
even
so good.
announce, like, the Halloween event or anything anymore.
Nope.
Like, they were for a while.
Yeah,
They were
everything's
for a
done
while
by
when
the
it was
community. That's it. Like they're not doing a
Hey,
yeah.
even
thing.
Rift is doing better than that on Steam charts.
Yeah, and most of Rift's player base probably isn't on Steam, right? Like,
But
Yeah, I got it
Rift
downloaded on my
still
computer, and it's the client, not
yeah.
Steam.
Rift was still having content updates well after the Secret World was.
Yeah, most of Rift's player base, because they were super late
We
to Steam. Super late.
Secret World's last update was what, like, maybe 2018 or something? May like, it was a long, long time ago.
Well, here's a little fun one for you. If you go to the Secret World Legends site and you go to their news tab, the last fucking post, period, not update, balance fix, post is October of 2022.
Right, but I'm saying the
and
content
and
updates, I
that's
think the last content update had to be at latest 2018 because I think I was still living in Hattiesburg at the time.
and what is this? No. And that post, by the way, in October of 2022 is for the Kickstarter for the tabletop RPG. It's not even for the game.
It's all so disrespectful. They just went, well, we've got Conan, and I guess now Dune, and we're done. Like they threw out Ragnar, then later they threw out Joel.
Yeah, the last like content piece that's posted to the news is the 5th anniversary back in June of 2022, and then prior to that, the Krampusnacht event in December of
So Christmas.
2021. Yeah, their Christmas event. Yeah, I would like it to go back to my main gripe with the original Secret World was the same gripe many people had was the combat itself, and I was perfectly willing to look past that. Like perfect. I loved every other aspect of that game, including the skill wheel and everything. So I would want to go back to is that still up? I know for a while if you had the original client, they kept that Secret World server up. You just couldn't
It
get that client anymore.
there hasn't ever been an announcement that they were shutting it down.
Yeah.
But
What else do we got in chat here? Wildstar, Firefall, Darkscape. Yeah, that's a good one. Dawngate. Oh.
I did enjoy Dawngate.
Dawngate was a great one.
Yeah,
What a
Dawngate.
what a good MOBA that was.
I actually enjoyed Dawngate, and I'm not a huge MOBA guy. Timbo James saying, would be nice if Neverwinter didn't show its age so much. Screw it. Neverwinter is kind of dead to me as far as being like one of my everyday games because of the way it's monetized. It's so all over the place. And there's an argument that it's not pay to win, fine, but there's definite pay for advantage and definite more so that aggravates me than that is the aggressive push to the cash shop that a lot of the game's
Yeah.
actual systems inherently do. I don't like that. I get it that like I could buy an XP boost or I could buy certain things that'll help me make higher end gear and in MMOs, and whether or not I'm okay to deal with that, it's going to depend on the game. Neverwinter's just some of its core systems aggressively push you to cash shop, and we've talked about it with the Cryptic team when they stream with me, right? We do giveaways for Neverwinter, we do giveaways for Star Trek Online, we host streams with Misa and Mike Fathom, and I like them. I like the games themselves, and we've talked on those streams about the monetization, and certainly those aren't the decision makers when it comes to monetization, so there's very little that they personally can do. But
Right,
yeah,
it's the parent companies,
oh yeah,
unfortunately, and that's the bigger problem
yeah,
in a lot of cases is it's the parent company.
Dawngate, yeah. I also liked Warhammer Age of Reckoning, uh, which is ironic because that was more PvP focused. I mean, there was some PvE in it, but it was a more PvP focused MMO. So I definitely could go for. I've just always wanted a good Warhammer MMO. Like, how has that not been
A
a
thing, yeah,
thing?
that lasted, yeah.
Yeah, Age of Reckoning. Like, man, how's that not a thing? Of course, if you're a City of Heroes fan, right, you got some good news on that front with
Yeah.
the whole Heroes project and stuff. What else? I'm just like looking through a list here because
Pour one out for Jason Winter. Nosgoth is one that I miss tremendously. It's not an MMORPG, but online
Oh
multiplayer.
yeah, yeah. See I liked Nosgoth. I hated that it was a Legacy of Kain thing or a Blood Omen
Mm.
thing. You know, in that whole franchise, I was like, no, this isn't what I want. I want another Soul Reaver or Legacy of Kain game. What is this PvP bullshit you're throwing at me?
It was
No,
a good game, though. It was a good PvP game.
don't do it. My kids would want Club Penguin back. And I know that's going to be probably a popular one that we might see in the comments a little bit. They were, and to this day, they have nostalgia for Club Penguin, like we have nostalgia for like the original World of Warcraft and EverQuest back in
Mm.
those days and things like that. And there have been so many pop-up illegal servers, but that gets shut down real quick. Well, you're talking about Disney, right? So it like disappears real quick. Star Wars Galaxies. I think I could go for a romp in Star Wars Galaxies again. Of course, that's another one that you have, other means to go ahead and play that. Did either of you ever play The Matrix Online? I feel like that was like, that was like 2005-ish, 2006-ish, I think. And I was so balls deep in Final Fantasy 11 that I didn't play anything else.
I started playing MMOs in 2005 and it was Eve. So
Yeah, I started in 2006, and it was World of Warcraft. So
Mist Online? There was a Mist Online? What the hell? Seriously?
tell you the one that hurt me the most when it shut down, and I didn't mention it because I don't think it should be brought back because I don't think it would do well. But Marvel Heroes broke my heart when that shut down. I loved that game. I enjoyed every minute in that game as an online ARPG.
Yeah, that was one of those ones that like disappeared overnight too, right? It was like a very
Yeah,
weird circumstance where Disney just all of a sudden yanked that license.
yeah. It was the guy that was in, I forget his name now, but the
There
guy
was
that was in leadership
controversy
started
around
getting
him.
some allegations against him and stuff like that. And next thing you know, the game's just gone. It's
Yeah.
just like, wow.
Actually, that's on one of these things I'm looking at. Marvel Heroes release date June 2013, died November 2017, and all it has for like the description here is Disney ended relations with developer Gazillion Entertainment in November 2017, and Marvel Heroes was taken offline later that month. That's it. That's it. Everything else has like a paragraph or two. That has one sentence. One sentence. Firefall, an ambitious MMO that introduced RPG systems into a persistent shooter, sounded like a sure thing from the get-go, but financial troubles led developer Red 5 Studios to lay off 40 employees and eventually cease development on Firefall. Servers were shut down for the biggest E3 boother several years running. And oh my God, that's right. How much money did they spend on those E3 booths?
that's funny because I remember Eve Online having massive booths, like 2-story booths with, club dancer girls blasting, I want to take you to a gay bar from
Yeah.
from the top. Like,
Oh, back
Wow.
when E3 was alive and relevant.
Yeah. I guess EverQuest Next and Landmark might be brought up by some people in the comments. Next, or Landmark, I think is fair to bring up. If you really, really enjoyed the building stuff that they had going on in there. I don't really think you can say Next, right? Like we never really got
did it
hands on with
ever
that or
actually
anything. Yeah,
launch?
well, God no. God no.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
it
don't
was
think
just
that
talked
thing ever
about a
got
lot,
past the
right?
ideation phase. Yeah, it's talked about a lot.
Yeah, we saw some
Which goes to
videos,
prove their
but
statement of the EverQuest franchise would be a huge deal if they were to release one. They just
yeah.
recently said that, and that kind of goes to show, yeah, people wanted to talk about EverQuest.
Let us know in the comments. That's going to be our question of the week when we get there. What MMO or multiplayer game do you want to see brought back from the dead, or given a new lease on life if it's still barely breathing by somebody, and what changes would need to happen for that to be worth it to you to jump back in. We're not talking about nostalgia. I want to know which ones you would actually put into your like daily, weekly gaming rotation. Not, I would totally play WildStar for 3 days if it launched.
Yeah.
If it launched today. That's not what we're talking about. Let us know in the comments below. Let's talk about some news now. First up, we've got the Xbox. Sorry, I got to write my timestamp. We've got the Xbox Final Fantasy 14 beta coming up. The dates have been revealed for this. You'll be able to jump in starting February 21st, sometime around noon Pacific, barring some ups and downs. There's no official end date to the open beta. If you're a brand new account on the Xbox, your stuff is going to carry over into launch if you opt to purchase the game and do the sub and everything. There will be the free trial stuff. If you're an existing player and you want to merge onto the Xbox, they actually ask, hey, kind of stay away from our open beta, please. Like, let us do our thing with newer players. If you want to create a second account and have some fun, great. But don't be merging accounts and trying to jump in here. It's not quite ready for that portion. And they don't have an end date because it's just going to roll straight into launch when they feel that they're ready for it. So starting February 21st. All that said, I do have to say WTF to Microsoft or Square, but I'm feeling like this is a Microsoft thing. If you want to play the MMO on the Xbox, now, important note, this does not count the free trial or obviously the open beta. Okay? You can access both of those, the open beta and the free trial, for free. Even after the open beta is done, you can still do the trial portion for free. But if you buy the game and sub, you also have to have Xbox Game Pass. It could be the core, the cheapest package that they run, but you do need to have that. Which obviously, I mean, there are other games that do require that, and there are games that don't. I think the most apt comparison here, though, is the PlayStation version of this MMO does not require you to be a PS Plus subscriber in any fashion. You just got to pay your Square Enix sub. On the Xbox side of things, that's not the case. At least right now, Troy, it's going to cost you a couple extra bucks for some type of Game Pass membership.
You know, I got a feeling if you're playing online games on the Xbox, you're probably a Game Pass member anyway. But at the same time, if you just want to play Final Fantasy, it kind of sucks that you have to shell out for the subscription plus a Game Pass, even if it is the cheapest one. Kind of rough on the consumer there.
Yeah, and Q, you said the same thing in the actual write up. At the end, you said it's a little weird since PS Plus isn't required on PlayStation. Then again, if you're an Xbox fan, chances are pretty solid you have the Game Pass for everything else it does. So maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. Full details in the beta test can be found on the site. So you kind of had the same impression walking away, and I 100%
I mean,
agree.
it's weird compared to the PlayStation, but it is my understanding that the way Microsoft is working there, whether or not you have to be on Xbox Game Pass as an online game, is whether or not you're a free to play game.
Right.
Free to play game, if it's a free to play game, you don't need Xbox Game Pass. If it's a buy to pay or pay to play game, you need Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
So I guess XIV just fell into because even if they went, okay, well, fine, we'll do away with the sub on the Xbox, you're still going to buy the game, right? Or vice versa. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to buy the game or you're going to pay a sub or you're going to do both. But anyway, you're giving money to Square Enix, so therefore you give money to Microsoft.
Right. Little weird, but it's just stuff you guys should know. Here's a fun one for you, Troy. I had mentioned it being ironic and funny. Troy is so sad. I had mentioned it being funny last week on the show that Warhaven, weeks after announcing its closure, its impending closure, it's in what, April? Uh,
Yeah, April.
is it April? I'd have to look it up to be sure. I'll take your word for it. But that seemed to stick in my head that it was going to be April. Um, I thought it was weird that they then announced a login event. It's like, well, that's kind of funny. I guess it got even weirder this week though, when just 3 days ago they went ahead and announced that yeah, we dropped a new character into the game.
Yeah. We're closing down, but here's all this new stuff you should check out and do.
Yeah, like on one end, I get it, right? Like they probably had this ready,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, we might as well launch it, let people see it for a little bit. But on the other side, this is a new character. Like that's a pretty big deal. This isn't like, hey, we had 2 almost completed maps. We're gonna throw them into the rotation so that you can kind of see them. This is a whole new gameplay style. Have this character go. By the way, in a month and a half, you gotta go. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Sadly, 86 people playing the game right now.
Hey, that's more than Secret World.
I feel like this has happened with another game before, but I can't think of which one. But I swear to God, there was another game that's like, we're shutting down, but here, new character.
Yeah, and normally, like, you're right, this isn't, like, unprecedented, but normally what happens is, like, we get a closure announcement, and they say, "We're gonna dump all the content we've been working on into the game now," so
Yeah.
that between now and the closure this was, like, 2.5 weeks after they announced closure, and it wasn't like there was a post saying, hey, we wanted to at least let you mess around. It was like they advertised it as if the game was not closing. It was like, here's a trailer and a new character, and here's the abilities, and this is cool. Like they didn't mention the closure at all. Like,
It's almost like it had some development time that needed to be finished up, and they just went ahead and finished it. Like, what the hell?
oh,
Maybe they're just trying to be positive,
Leoven,
not
you
make
are
everybody feel
right.
bad.
You are right. It was Elion that did that, Q. They added a new class and then shut down.
That-
You're right.
I knew it was something. I knew there was. It's like we're shutting down. Here's a character.
This is one of the few games that survived the first look uninstall that happens on Troy's computers. This actually stayed installed after the first look, and now he's going to be forced to uninstall it.
Yeah, like I'm really sad to let this one go. I haven't played it since the announcement. I've been too devastated to go in and take a look at it. I might do some kind of video or stream or something like I did with Marvel Heroes, where I go in and just mourn the game for a couple hours.
Yeah, go ahead, do a video. I'll post it up. That'd be great, actually. Let's lock that in and do it.
Noob Fridge is sad.
Yeah, we'll do a Noob Fridge says goodbye to Warhaven. Going back to our first topic, Troy would like to add Warhaven to his list. In what other news do we got today? Oh, the First Descendant. This is one that like we mentioned Nexon being one of those companies that I'm always leery of. I don't automatically hate, but I always like I got to see the monetization first. First Descendant released some new info. They did their crossplay open beta event a while ago. There was a ton of feedback, and then they put up, we covered it at the time, this huge post about what they were doing with all that feedback. And now they've circled back around to kind of talk about what's been implemented based on that feedback, improvements to the game, and all of that stuff. I would highly encourage you, if you are interested in the First Descendant, it's, a looter shooter type thing, to go read the articles on MMOBomb about how they've taken the feedback and actually actioned it. We know a lot of times games are like, yeah, we hear you, and then don't do anything with it. It seems like they're taking quite a bit of this feedback to heart. They focused on new and improved endgame content. That was something we talked about in the beta, that it was a little too, like, it's going to be repetitive by its nature, Destiny 2, Warframe, that type of game. But it was a little too repetitive, so they've pulled things back for a couple of months, made some changes there, improved cinematics to amp up the storytelling that they wanted to do a little more. I can't wait to get my hands on this, hoping Nexon doesn't screw up the monetization. But they also said that they're feeling a lot of pressure right now, Troy, which I thought was like an interesting public acknowledgement of, hey, we got a summer launch ahead of us, and we can feel the expectations for this one.
Yeah, knowing that they're feeling the pressure and saying that out loud is two different things completely.
Yeah.
Just due to the popularity of the game, and they even acknowledge that, hey, the in-game content we've got, players are probably going to burn through that in the first few months. And we've really got to be ready to come out with some new systems and some new content and be ready to hit the ground running, basically, whenever we launch this game. Because just because we get it out the door and have it ready to go doesn't mean we're done with it. Especially if you want it to be, a living live service game, and you want to monetize things and make money on it and have the game actually live past the first few months. You can't just rest on your laurels once you've put the game out the door. So they've really acknowledged that they're feeling the pressure on that kind of stuff, and that they're really focused on that in-game content and keeping players interested in the game, past the first 3 months after launch.
It's a really interesting read if you're even remotely interested in the game, how that translates into the changes we'll actually be able to feel as being worth it when it launches this summer. I don't know. We'll wait and see, but it's definitely one that I'm like, oh, please don't suck, and please don't ruin it with monetization. Fingers and toes crossed. All right, Q and Troy, I want you both to give me is this a good thing or not? Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Now, remember, Pantheon had its missteps not too long ago with the whole 24/7 mode, and it was like an extraction thing, and we're not relitigating all of that here. But one thing that I will pull from that whole discussion is that although they kept portraying the we're not out of money, we can do this with the money we have. It's just going to take forever to do it. And we were hopeful that this would generate more money. That little kernel of truths of information still seems to be the case, because they are making changes to how you can access the game. Right now it's been like alpha level pledges and all that higher stuff. Now they're going to make some changes. Anybody that has a pledge pack is now going to get access to the MMO. Their pledge packs start at $50 and go up from there. But anybody can now start taking part in their different testing phases. February 17th is going to be the next one. And they're going to run them like seasons. So just like your, different season passes and stuff, you'll have access from February 17th to March 29th. That'll be the next season. They are segregating this a little bit, though. Depending on your tier level of support, that determines how much access you get. So if you are a VIP, you get access from day one, 17th of February through the 29th. If you're at champion level access, you got to wait till March 16th, and you only get to access it to the 29th. So you get a 2-week period where you can play for this 6-week season. And supporters, the lowest tiers, March 23rd to the 29th. You basically get a week. You get a week. And they're going to release these different seasons. And obviously they have said, Troy and Q, that this is, we want to involve a larger player base in development, but we also want to use it to generate additional funding for the game's development and engage existing pledges in a live environment. Is this a good thing where they're headed, or does this really kind of tip there are financial issues back here?
I think it tips that there are financial issues and that they're needing to generate income however they can. I think it's a good thing that they're still leaving value for their alpha pledges and stuff like that. There's still something there that they get that the other ones don't get. But I think that they need the income right now more than they even need the testers in their game. And I think that's becoming more and more obvious all the time. I think this is I'm not saying it's a desperation move. I'm just saying it's an obvious monetization move where they're trying to get more money flowed into the game. And just from an outsider looking in, it looks like they could really use it because nothing I've seen from the game has been overly impressive. I haven't seen anything that makes me go, oh my God, this is the game I'm waiting on up until this point. So, to see further development in the game, I'm interested. I've been watching it just to see where it goes. But I don't, at the end of the day, if it was to shut down tomorrow, it doesn't affect me whatsoever because I haven't become invested in the game at any point.
Q, do you get the same impression? I mean, I'm sure all development houses could use a little extra cash, right? That's a given in the industry. Is that everybody could use a little extra cash to stay flush and do what they're doing. But this comes on the back of a clear monetization move and a potential testing move, if they were being honest, about 24/7 that didn't pan out the way they wanted it to, and rightfully so, in my opinion. And then here we are just a month and a half or so later, another, hey, we've really got to try to monetize this. Maybe this is the way to do it. Because I could see people saying, I would buy a $50 supporters pack, but I don't get access until, whenever the hell a beta comes. Who knows when that's going to be? Well, now with this, maybe you do go, oh, okay, you know what? If you're going to give me access now, I'll toss you an extra $50. So maybe it does help them a little bit. But to Troy's point, this is also a very niche game to begin with. If you were following this game and you were going to support them, there's a high probability that you already did that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. If their lowest tier wasn't $50, like $50 is almost having bought a game.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a retail
right?
game in most cases.
Like, so when you're like, oh, the lowest tier, the $50 tier, you get like 3 or 4 days in for every season. Like, I'd just be like, now wait for the game to come out and let you do your stuff. Personally,
Yep.
like and it would be any game. I am not so interested in a game that I will pay you $50 up front to maybe get to play 3 days out of a month.
Yeah, there are damn few
it's
games
not
that I
gonna
even
happen.
pre-order anymore, let alone.
Yeah, the only reason I ever pre-ordered games before was because I got real world goodies to go with them.
Yeah.
Now that really no longer exists, or it's so prohibitively expensive, I don't pre-order anything. And I think a lot of people, but I mean, there obviously is, right, the segment of people that are like, oh, I really believe that this is going to be the one.
Yeah.
And they will go out and throw $50 at something to just sit and wait for it to come out. But and they do it a lot with games because there's like you have an idea of the game you want, and hopefully this is the game that they're going to create. But again, with game development, the game that they show you when they first start teasing it and saying, hey, this is the kind of game we want to make, does not mean that this is the game that you're going to get in the end.
Right.
And
I mean, that was a big concern with the 247, was like, wait a minute.
Right. I just don't see throwing down $50 because now you can get in for 3 days every season.
Yeah. $150 for Wayfinder. Yeah, that's right. As much as you want to Stormgate to succeed, I need to see it released first. Yes. And that's kind of where I am on Pantheon. I really do want Pantheon to succeed. I think there's stuff there that I would like. I'm not giving you any money, though. Like, even though I've been a fan since day one, this doesn't do it for me to say, okay, now I'm going to give you $50. Maybe it works out and they get some of the extra capital that they need, or that I at least get the impression that they need, that they keep saying they don't really, really need, but would like to expedite things. I don't know if it's just an expedite things at this point. I don't know. Hey, Q, speaking of money, what the hell is Tarisland doing? They put up like an economic system video this week. What the hell was that all about?
Okay, so yeah, they put up the economic system video, which was funny to me because the first portion of it wasn't talking about economics as we think about economics in games. It was talking about the monetization.
Ah, yeah, the good old economics of the game.
They did, however, get into the economics of the game after that because apparently it all ties together.
Imagine that.
So, like I said, they talk about their various microtransactions. There's the stuff that you would expect, right? Cosmetics and pets that can't be used in combat, things like that. And then they've got something called pay to love, which is like
that's not legal in the States.
It's basically their gift giving system.
Oh, okay.
It's
like, man, you're targeting a niche audience. You're like, this game's
friends.
released in Amsterdam and that's it.
And then they have benefits that they say are unrelated, that they describe as unrelated to attributes and that do not affect the core gaming experience.
Oh, cool.
Based on what one of the items they said was, I'm not sure Jason Winter would agree with that last statement at all.
Uh-oh.
It's inventory.
Oh, yeah. It has no impact on the game experience whatsoever.
The larger
It was only
backpack
mentioned in
and
chat
warehouse,
20 minutes ago in regards to Neverwinter. Yeah, it's
right?
Yeah.
Like,
never part of the gaming experience.
and then they explain how the actual economic system works in game. You know, the whole having jobs that can craft things to sell on the market. You know what you would expect
Right.
from those kinds of so. But yeah, so the non-core gaming experience impacting shopping experience in the shop. So
Yeah, inventory totally not game enhancing at all. I don't even. Oh, this game has inventory. Yeah, I didn't even notice. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things that slips by me. Last little
Yeah.
news hit. Go ahead, Troy. Did you have something there?
No.
Okay. Last little news hit before we finish this up and go to the bombs and everything. You're going to be able to hop into Nightingale 2 days early. Their stress test went very well. They extended it while it was going on for almost over double the time, I think, that it was originally scheduled for. So that was very, very cool. Things held up. They've gone through all the data, and they feel confident. Now, instead of the 22nd, the game is now going to be available in early access on the 20th instead. So 2 days early. That's cool. And by the way, the open beta for Skull and Bones is now underway. So yeah, I mean, if I installed it, but I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. I don't really know about this one, gang. I really don't know. Troy, before we do the weekly bombs, you want to give us a little piece of Ravendawn. We put up the first look this week that you did for Ravendawn. What'd you think of this little nostalgia hit?
I thought it was charming. I thought it kept me interested longer than I thought it was going to. I thought I would get bored with it and really struggle to, play deep into it and keep interested in it enough to do a first look of any real quality. But once I got to playing, I was like, you know what? This is actually not bad for what it is. It's not going to be for everybody, as I say in the first look. The combat is very chop, 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 especially with the class that I'm playing. But there's a lot of systems in place in this game that are reminiscent of more modern games, despite its nostalgic old school look and feel. It's got a lot of systems in place that do a lot of neat things and a lot of systems that I enjoy in other games. And it kind of brings them all together into one game. And it's a lot deeper than it looks on the surface, giving the visuals of it. Now, the camera angle is a little wonky at first. It takes a little getting used to, even for an isometric game. The angle is a little weird. It makes it a little hard to see doors sometimes that you need to go in or stairs that you need to go up or down. But I found myself getting used to it, and I found myself really enjoying the game, and I didn't have any issues at all playing a lot more than I do for some first looks.
So
I have several hours in the game at this point.
they do offer a sub. It is a free to play game, but they do offer a sub. And most of the stuff in the sub, when I was looking at it, and I haven't played this, so I'm asking. Most of the stuff in the sub is like the kind of stuff you would expect, right? Like your login is moved to the top of the queue. You have a patron chat color and a premium badge, and you're able to unlock and wear T3 or higher cosmetics, like that type of stuff. Fine, no problem.
Mm.
But I am seeing things in here like faster gathering when successfully timing the gathering. I'm sorry, that's a typo. It says Gather Ming mini. That's on their site, not ours. Gather Ming mini game. Regenerate effort for your land at a 3 times faster pace. There are some modifiers here. Now, my question though is like, we saw these types of like effort and land grab and stuff like that in Arcade back in the day. Does it follow that mold? Because I have seen some people comment that. And does the sub, are you kind of forced into the sub if you want to do those things in a meaningful way, kind of like you were in Arcade?
Unfortunately, I'm not deep enough in the game yet to have my own piece of land, so I'm just using the public land to farm things, and I've got more than enough. I think they call their labor effort
Yeah.
In the game to do anything I need to do on the public piece of land. So I can't speak heavily on, how restrictive that effort system is in later on in the game. I do know that the sub offers you faster regeneration, but you can go out and just do quests and stuff like that and get regeneration of that effort as well. As far as the gathering, I didn't find the gathering like particularly annoying or anything. It does
I'm
have a
sorry, I
little
think you
mini
mean the
game.
Gatherming.
Yeah, the gathering.
Yeah.
The gathering wasn't bad at all. It does
So
have the
how
little
much
mini
Ming
game
have
where
you
you get the little
gathered?
bar. I've gathered much Ming.
So,
Gathered much Ming.
all right, if you've played further in Ravendawn, let us know, because I hate when games like hide stuff like that, and it does seem like something I lambasted Arcage for it. So let us know. And Troy, as you continue to play it, obviously, let's revisit this and come on back to it. Let's finish up with the weekly bombs. Keep in mind, short and simple. Giving a dub bomb to the Nightingale team 2 days early. That's cool. And their test was very, very well done. For a stress test was very, very well done. I got to play a little bit, even though I didn't think I was going to be able to because of the extension. And things ran really, really well. Hope it does that on the 20th. Dub bomb. Go ahead, Q.
I'm gonna give an A-bomb to Mike for making me think sad thoughts about Secret World.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew that was going to be your game as I was writing the show notes. I was like, Q's only bringing one, and it's going to be Secret World, and I'm totally with her. We were not married in that game, though. So
No, they didn't have a marriage
no.
option in the
I don't
game.
think you want to get married in that world.
Probably not.
Kind of like, nah, you're going to die and end up eating me anyway. So let's just not do that. Go ahead, Troy.
I'm also giving a dub bomb to Nightingale. I think the stress test went extremely well. I enjoyed my time in it. Thank you for extending that, by the way. That way I could actually have time to play.
Yeah, both of us
instead
were
of
in the
putting
same boat that day.
Yeah, right in the middle of my workday. We had the show, and then I had articles to write up. So the extension gave me a chance to play. So enjoyed my time in it. It's got a few little things here and there, a lot of missing icons and things like that on stuff. But they are just launching into early access, so I'm looking forward to that and seeing where the game goes from the little bit of time that I got to play in it.
Agree. From viewers, now remember, put your weekly bombs, dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the comments on YouTube or on MMOBomb, and I'll scrape them for next week's show. Could be gaming related or just life in general, whatever the hell you want to talk about. This is your segment of the Always Online podcast. Brett Brooks chiming in saying, Wayfinder will have a raid release in Q2 with Destiny-style puzzles and stages. If that works and feels good, I have confidence that they will be fine with a free-to-play launch and some good advertising. Plus, an Xbox port with new first impressions will help a lot. Yeah, Xbox is still a question mark in the air, right? They have the logo on the site. That has always been one of their intentions. They focused on the PlayStation exclusively for early access, just to kind of keep the development team a little easier, in quotes, focused on one thing. The intent is still come to Xbox. Hopefully that's still on the table, given some of the changes and challenges they've had. I agree with you, Brett. It could be fine, and I really do want it to be fine in this case. I think there's a lot of good in Wayfinder. I just feel like it's going to be one of those games now that is under such a pressure crunch to start that revenue train that it might not get the chance to do it. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Go ahead, Troy.
Carito, great episode, guys. Want to give a dub bomb this week to myself for finally getting the Necromancer title on Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, grats.
And for a throwback, see you guys on the server.
Yeah, it's not a throwback. I still say it every episode. But not just on this channel. But congrats on that Necromancer title. Go ahead, Q.
Corey V, Wayfinder doing bad. I called it in the first alpha. I felt that it was pretty much a mobile game that got ported to console PC as an afterthought. It felt generic as hell. The class system was so generic. When it launched in EA, they didn't change really anything. I said it would be dead within 6 months if it ever launched. Looks like it might not even get a launch. Also, what is insane is that Microsoft, the $1.6 trillion company, now owns Blizzard, is cool with layoffs.
Yeah,
Of
and
course it is.
yeah, and the FTC is coming after them again, lodging a complaint on this one. You know, saying, "Hey, you laid off these people." Microsoft today announced or at least responded to that, saying Activision was already planning layoffs. So, yeah, take it for what it's
That's
worth.
not shocking.
Kristen L, I think that's Kristen L. Apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Power World players be like, the game is fun. I don't care if it breaks copyright laws. The only thing that matters in a game is it's fun. Who cares if the art was made using AI? All I care about is a fun game. What a shitty take. It makes games feel cheap as a medium, and I refuse to give money to that company. They have a whole AI-generated game. I also refuse to give money to Nexon, and I'm glad I've never done so. So answering the question of the week, thank you. I will still play MapleStory, at least until they self-destruct and shut it down through their sheer dumbass changes. Yeah, Dino Fries obviously agrees with you on the MapleStory front. You know, if you listen to the
Yeah.
show, that he's nuts about the game, but is in the same boat as you. So the Power World thing is interesting. Like, if it breaks copyright, it breaks copyright, and that'll be litigated out, and it won't matter if the game is fun, right? It won't matter how many gamers think it's fun. But we have other creature collection games. So judging just based on that, forget any similarity between creatures. But as far as breaking a copyright, that one might be tough. If the Pokemon company has already said they're going to investigate. Whether or not that'll lead to charges or not, I don't know. Or an accusation or a lawsuit, I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like if they thought they had a copyright claim, they would have done this way earlier.
A long time
But
ago.
there is
Well,
yeah.
before it
also,
launched.
yeah, but there is also Q, to your point that you made a couple of weeks ago, wait until they have money. And now they got a little bit, right? They got a little bit.
Well, the funny thing is though, Nintendo did do a DMCA against somebody who modded Pal World and
to look like to have Pokemon mods, yeah.
to have Pokemon in it. So obviously they're not afraid of it, which is what you would assume.
Yeah, I'm also
Anyway.
with you. I'm not a fan of AI art being used. Now, there were allegations of this one in Power World so far, but nothing's been definitively proven. The CEO over Power World has expressed support of AI art and used small amounts in other side projects and things like that. And I know there were some comparisons and things like that, but a lot of those have been debunked now. Yeah, due to people having their own motivations for wanting the game to not do well. I can't say you're wrong, Kristen. I don't like that approach either. As long as the game is fun, everything else doesn't matter. I boycotted Activision Blizzard, even though they have fun games, because of the way they treated their employees. So I'm with you on both of these. Now, whether Power World falls specifically by itself into one of these two buckets, I think the jury is still out on that one, and we'll have to watch how it plays out. Question of the week last week: what MMO companies do you just absolutely hate? You just want to avoid them at all costs, no matter what game. And Timbo James chiming in says, "Nah, I meant to agree with you on Daybreak with all their questionable nonsense and the way they treated specifically H1Z1. Yes, yeah, Daybreak is one that I wouldn't say. I think I said last week that I question them from a press standpoint for a lot of reasons over the last couple of years. Go ahead, Troy, finish it up.
Carrito says, for the question of the week, gotta be EA for me. Won't touch any of their games, doesn't matter how good they may be.
Yeah, that's been a lot of people's go-to for a long time now. Hey, question of the week this week: what MMO needs to come back or get a new owner if it's still living, that would make it actually part of your weekly gaming rotation? It wouldn't just be a nostalgia hit visit. Let us know in the comments below. We gave you some of ours. We gave you some of chat's. Now we want to hear from you and why. That's going to do it for this week's show. We will see you next Friday as normal, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, Troy, where can everybody find you?
I'm on the socials at Noob Fridge.
Cute.
On Twitter at Quinlan.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there on Twitter at magicman1 or X, whatever. But more importantly, follow at MMOBomb. You'll know every time we're going live with a show, a stream, an interview. We post giveaways, put up news articles, interviews, and more. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.